Now, you may not know this, but the 2024 election was based on the politics of judgment. You may not know what that is, but after watching this video, you will. I'm David Tomsic, and you are watching Loud and Clear. So what is the politics of judgment? Well, obviously, I'm talking about a Christian thing. There's judgment probably in many religions, but Christians are well known for being judges. They use it like a tool, and it was brought into the election through the right wing of the Republican Party, mostly the very right-wing Evangelicals and Pentecostals, who believe that God somehow created America, that the founders were all devout Christians and believed that this should be a Christian nation. Well, that's not true, and we know that's not true from history, from records, from the writings of our founders. But it doesn't persuade these people from stopping their rhetoric. In fact, they believe Donald Trump is the chosen one, sent here by God to make America great again. Now, keep in mind, that's a contradiction. And as I mentioned in my last video, it's a nostalgia thing. It's not real. There never was a time when America was all great for everybody. You all know that. Many of you who are black realize that. Then you realize that, yeah, it wasn't even good for the Native Americans who lived here when the settlers first came over. It wasn't good for the Japanese when they were interred by the U.S. government because they thought they were all spies. So we say this all the time here because I want to make it clear, loud and clear, that we're not perfect. There is no black and white. There's gray. There's a lot of gray. And people have to understand that many right-wing believers only want to see black and white. Now, here's the problem. There were surveys taken throughout the South, very red states, very conservative Christian states. And there were pastors from small and large churches, many Southern Baptists. And they found that these people were stressed out. Many quit. Many couldn't take it anymore because it was very hard trying to make everything black and white. Sometimes their congregation didn't want to hear messages on equality. They didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to hear messages on diversity. They didn't want to hear it, so they either fired them or they quit because they couldn't take it anymore. The stress is great. There are people that have groups that are trying to get together to help each other as pastors because of what happens in these very far right-wing churches. You see, because nobody's perfect. And they try to make it seem like you can be perfect. Make it seem like God is only looking at the scorecard, not the very fact that what he said to do was to believe on the Lord Jesus Christ and you will be saved. No, now there's more to it. It's a bigger playbook than that. And they use all the letters of Paul and all the books of Paul and some others to justify their hatred because they go back to the Old Testament through that. It's their back door to the Old Testament, to the fire and brimstone of God. Very seldom hear teachings, and I mentioned this as well on the Beatitudes. Somebody commented, an excellent comment, how you don't hear about the Beatitudes. You don't want to hear anything that Jesus says because it contradicts what they believe. Homosexuality. Just stop doing it. Listen, I don't know what it's like to be homosexual. I'm not. But I know people who are, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, dude, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but yeah, you're gay. It is black and white with that situation. You're not just going to go and say, oh, today I'm not going to be gay. Then you go, well, Paul said, well, you know what? There's a lot of interpretations on that, and I'm not going to get into it because I don't know. I'm not going to be the one to say, obviously, the people who believe that these people are all going to hell, they know best. Let them believe what they want to believe. But what if that person is a born-again Christian? Born again, I'm using their terms. They're still going to hell, right? Are they? How does that work? How? See, they can't explain it. They can't explain the fact that they'll tell you in a sermon, or they used to, that the price God paid for you through Jesus was big. He's not going to let you go. You don't get a $100,000 car, get a dent on it, and throw the car out. No, you don't. But see, we want to do that with people because they don't want to believe what we want to believe. They don't want to act like we want them to act. Illegal immigrants. I say this all the time. Illegal. They're illegal. They like saying illegal. Okay, according to basic immigration law, They're illegal. But if you're a Christian and you're professing all this stuff, that immigration law doesn't pertain to what you should think and believe. Your instructions come from Jesus himself. And he doesn't say, hey, throw them in jail, throw them out, get rid of them, put them in jail, send them to a concentration camp in Nicaragua somewhere. Get them out of here, or El Salvador, should I say, and because they're illegal. Let's punish them. He says the exact opposite. But once again, the hatred and bigotry shown by many of these people goes far and above anything I've ever seen. And their leader, Donald Trump, agrees with everything they say because he wants their support. He's always been against globalism. He's always been against immigrants. He's always been against anything that isn't white and anybody that's not a billionaire. That's Donald Trump. Let's just be honest. But people are willing to sacrifice their true belief system, the words of Jesus, to make sure they get what they want. I don't want to see immigrants working in farms. Well, then you're not going to have any food. I don't want to see immigrants waiting on my tables or doing any work on my roof or landscaping. Well, then who's going to do it? White Americans? You're kidding me, right? I don't want foreigners working on me at the hospitals. I don't want gay people to help me in a hospital. I don't want a gay doctor save my life. Really? You see, because I know people that have had serious surgeries. I've had some. And I can tell you, I thank God every day for those people, whoever they are, whatever their persuasion is, that helped me, that took care of me. A friend of mine finally said, he goes to an evangelical church, and he said, listen, they're telling me, don't give any money to those people along the sidewalk because they're just going to buy drugs with it. And he says, I had an epiphany moment one time after listening to you. And I says, well, what did you hear? He said, I don't think God cares that guy might buy drugs with it. He said, I think what God cares is how I treated him as the least of these. So I drive through Pittsburgh quite a bit, and sometimes I get hung up down there going on to the bridge, to get across the bridge to the South Hills. And there are always homeless people standing there. And generally, if I have money, I try to give them some. And I had on my Jeep that day, it was before Halloween, a pretty large, 3-foot skeleton sitting on my bumper of my Jeep. And it's for fun, of course. Now, a lot of people don't like that. Oh, you're evil. You're a demon. No, I'm a Christian. I'm having fun. And I would give them money. And this guy saw me, and he looked at my skeleton. He started laughing. He had a smile. It was a broken smile. He was smiling. He's just waving, and I gave him some, and I give him a hand bump. If you saw this guy light up, listen, I'm serious. He lit up that somebody didn't just give him money, but acknowledged that he's a human. Not a big deal. I wasn't breaking the laws of physics. It was a bump, a hand bump. He lit up. The least of these. So I am now very, very guarded when it comes to many Christians, people I know, evangelicals. I don't want to be in a confrontation with them because I can pretty much get aggravated and say things I shouldn't say. I have a talk show, a couple of them, and I can definitely go off. And I guard myself against that because it's not right to do. I don't want to do that. And when I hear things coming from these people, I don't say anything. I let them believe what they want to believe. I'm not there to change their minds. That's something that as a Christian they should know. They study all the time, or they're supposed to be studying all the time. What they're studying, I don't know, because the things they say just make it sound like they just think they're self-righteous. They're not. I think the Bible says all of our hearts are wicked, every one of us. Extremely wicked, I think it says. So you're never going to be perfect. You're never going to be able to say, oh, look at that girl, wow. And, and say, oh, man, lightning bolts coming down. It's like the prodigal son, man. He did all kind of crazy things. He comes home. He was going to go in the barn. The guy ran and met him halfway. That's the example. But we don't want to talk about that in terms that people can relate to every situation because they only want to talk about things that makes them feel good at that time. They never want to talk about people in the church directly. Gluttony. It's rampant in the church. Gossiping. Rampant in the church. Yeah, I can go down the list and I'm not. The point is that Every one of those sins is the same. But they want to make things they don't like the big sin. They want to make things they don't like a reason for a message, to condemn people, to point at people. Now, here's the thing. I believe that God sees this. I believe that's why the churches are shrinking across the nation. Now, I know the big churches are thriving, the huge churches, and there's different reasons for that. But all the small churches are starting to fade away because they didn't meet the needs of their people. They didn't get involved with their community. They didn't want to take a stand for equality or diversity. They didn't want to help those in need. They didn't want to serve the least of these, the foreigner. They rather stand against them. And young people know this. Young people see it because they're in the community. They see what's happened. Condemnation, finger pointing. It's one of those things that you can't hide. So when you think about it, the politics of judgment has been used as a tool, as a weapon. It's weaponized Christianity, weaponized against all the enemies they believe they have. They believe that everybody's out to get them. And of course, the big one is it's the end of the world. The rapture's coming. Now, that might be true. I'm unclear about a lot of that. But guess what? I'm not going to focus my entire life on it. Can't wait to leave here. Oh, take me. Shoot me now. They're going to cut my head off anyway. Where does this come from? It comes from the conspiracy theories centered around judgment. God's going to judge the world, and he's coming to get his people right now, the remnant, the few people left, and they stood by their guns. We got rid of every illegal immigrant we could get. We made sure we hated gay people and transgender people and illegal immigrants. We made sure we stood on the right side. How about that, God? We're for you. Are you? They never been to the Middle East. What would they do if they lived 2,000 years ago? They wouldn't know what to do. First of all, there'd be white people in a not-so-white culture. Oops. Can't make America white again then, huh? So here's my point. If you want to preach the gospel, let's stay with what Jesus said. Let's start there. You can talk about all the other things later, but right now you seem to be missing the base, the foundation of your faith. Jesus told him, get thee behind me. Why? Not because of anything else they did, except what you did to the least of these, you did unto me. And guess what they're doing to the least of these? Taking SNAP benefits off of them, Medicare benefits off of them. They want to make sure illegal immigrants don't get health care at the hospital. So let their kids die or let their husbands die because no one's going to pay for it. Let the hospital tell them to get out of there. We're not paying for it. People who live in nice homes and nice cars, plenty of money to go eat anywhere they want, and they're going to deny some poor person, whoever they are, some health care. Talk about judgment. There's judgment. Judgments are coming there. What you do to the least of these. I talk about this a lot. The politics of judgment Donald Trump used. He used in a big way and still is. Now he's finding out that more and more people are not falling for the line. More and more people are rallying against him. Many Christians are finally waking up. And for the rest of you that haven't woken up yet, it's time to do so. Get with the game. Not everybody's a demon. Not everybody's out to get you. We do have a common goal, and that's to make sure that everybody in our country is treated fairly and has adequate food and health care. What you do to the least of these, you do unto me. It's all the time I have. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this channel. Also, make sure you go over to my other channel, the David Thompson Report. Check out those videos. You'll love them. Remember, love your neighbor as yourself. I'll see you next time right here on Loud and Clear.